V.
Welcome back to the #1 breakfast show in the country, Morning at NTV. My name is Rami Basuk. Of course, we are getting into the biggest conversation of the day. I do have the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Jacob Oulanyah, and also the Omoro County MP, who is here to speak to us about the Northern vote, the shift between the Northerners hating President Museveni and now supporting him wholesomely. Would like to know more about that, and also his expectations of the 11th Parliament, the new incoming MPs. A very good morning, Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah.
Good morning, Romeo. But the aspect of the expectations of the 11th Parliament, I think I'd like to skip for now. Let's focus on the issues of the vote in the northern region.
All right.
Yes,
All right, let's talk about the northern region. In
Yes,
1996, it was very, very hard to even scream NRM Oye.
Yes.
Yes, because it was the people in there hated President Museveni. They thought he was coming to actually grab land from the Acholi region, from the Lango region, and so forth. But then we saw a shift in 2011, 2016, 2021. There is actually support for the NRM in northern Uganda. The viewer would like to know why. What changed?
No, but I think it's mainly because of the consistency of his message. When you're consistent on your message, people begin to buy in slowly. In the sense that they begin to understand you, the fears they had before begin to melt away. And then you become predictable in their minds, and then eventually they embrace you. The region is very slow to rush into things and take positions very quickly, but over time they begin to understand, and once they build the confidence, of course, there's a, and I think that's what happened in this case. Yes.
And then we saw the opposition, make a lot of strongholds within northern Uganda. They were preaching, Museveni is coming to steal your land, especially in 2006. We saw politicians mobilizing women to come and get naked, get nude in front of officials from government.
That was very sad.
It was really, really, really sad. It showed opportunistic politics.
Absolutely.
Expand on that.
That was very unfortunate, and we truly apologize to the people that were misled to do this kind of thing. It was not necessary. There's nothing that we cannot discuss. There are no agreements that we cannot reach. The bare minimum, we can at least agree on how to disagree. But what happened, the extent to which we reached was not fair. Yeah, but you see, the debate on grabbing land has been there, and each time there's an election, it comes up. Oh, they're going to take land. There's an election, and the elections are over. Nobody's taking land. And another election comes. Oh yes, they're going to take land. Another election comes. They're going to take land, and elections are over, and nobody's taking anybody's land. So over time, it became an old dusted rhetoric that people begin to understand. But wait a minute, is it really true? Why does it come only this time? And then when we wait, there's nothing. And I've been speaking about this for a while now. I say, see, what we refuse to focus on is the poverty levels in our region.
Thank you.
And each time we talk about land, and there are people who have a lot of land, and when you go to them, they can point at my land is from that tree to that valley to that hill, big. And the fellow pointing and with such pride about the size of his land looks so poor, torn trousers and things like that. The thing is, how do we make this person who owns all this kind of land, instead of treating it as a museum piece, to begin treating it as a source of capital that he can benefit from? But we shifted the narrative from making this land productive to this person who is showing everybody how much land he has, to now making him be defensive of that land, with the fear that somebody else is going to take over this land without paying him any money for it.
That's how Amuro Sugar Plantation was actually fought during that time.
And because of that, we lost a lot of opportunities. And these people remain poor in spite of all this land that they have. And the narrative on radios all the time was, land is the only resource now we have. We have to defend it with all we have. I am going to Parliament to defend your land, to speak for you that your land is not taken. And it got ingrained in the DNA of our people. But it was a mistake, because now getting them out of it to let them start saying, well, wait a minute, this land actually I can utilize it. This land can actually be something I can make money out of. All these plea of President Museveni said the four-acre plan, it was falling in deaf ears to our people. Now, and I said before, I said, you see, nobody, for as long as we are here as leaders, your leaders, nobody is going to fly in any helicopter, send in any surveyors and fence of land here and chase anybody out of his land. We are there. We will see these things.
You think
and we were able to stop
You
them.
think opportunistic politics is the reason why Northern Uganda was actually lagging behind?
Absolutely.
Gulu University doesn't have any land that it is sitting on.
Well,
they're still squatting. Simply because of that divisive kind of politics. They refuse to give up a land.
Correct. And you see, let me just finish this point. And I told them, I said, because of poverty, that land that you're so proud of, you are going to sell it yourself. Your wife is going to fall sick, children are going to have to go to school, and you have to get money, and you don't have the money. So what are you going to do? You are going to pick a border from your rural village, come to the town to look for anybody who can buy this piece of land. And guess what? You're going to sell it to anybody who will offer you more money. Any person from any part of the region, maybe the Acholi man, your neighbor, who you desire to have this land, does not have the kind of money you want. Maybe the Buganda guy, maybe the Bungisu guy, maybe the Munyankole guy has more money than the other guy. That is the guy who will take the land. And I say over time we'll be squeezed from our arable land, from our fertile land, into the swamps to be with the frogs. And I said this 10 years ago. And it's happening now. And we're having a big problem. We're not trying to change the narrative. You say, you see, don't sell the land. I mean, you sell 5 acres of land, 10 acres of land to buy a border. Is that a worthy investment for a 5-acre land?
It's not.
Now, this is something that now we have to change for our people. And the discussions have started, and a lot of people are buying in.
Indeed.
To say that, no, you see, we have to use this land that God has given us in a more productive way. Get partners who we can work with. We give this our equity contribution to investment. Let them come utilize the land. Some people have done it. There is a fellow in Oulanyah, as you go towards Gold, you'll find a tall, big building, nice building. The guy reached an agreement with the owner of the land. He built a double-storied building. He's using it now. Rented it to some, I think, NGOs, made his money. And the agreement was, after 15 years, I leave. And the guy left. And that whole huge building now belongs to this guy who owned the land. If he had chased this guy with spears like we always do, that land would still be vacant, the man would still be poor, nothing would have happened. Now this kind of partnership, genuine partnership, is what we need to seek out for our people. And the conversation has to shift from these conservation politics to investment politics. Yeah.
You mean conservative politics?
Conservation. They want to conserve the land as it is and just admire it like a piece of art or something like that.
For it to just be there.
Let it be there. And when they die, of course, they'll take a small piece of it, maybe less than a meter by 2 meters. And that's where they will go.
All right. In 1996, the first election that was conducted by the NRM, it was very, very hard to scream NRM Oye. Fast forward 2006, it was still hard.
No,
but then the government,
1996, there was no NRM Oye because there was no NRM. There was a difference between the multi-parties, those who believe in parties, multi-partyism, and the movement, we call them the movement is. I belong to the other side.
What made it so hard to campaign for Museveni during the elections in 1996?
I think mainly because President Museveni had just taken over government from a person who was from that region. And there were these fears. And also...
that the presidency is being taken away from the north.
It was already taken away from the north. And also the way some of the troops acted in our communities. You may want to know that that is part of what caused the rebellion.
Indeed.
Because a lot of these people, when they left Kampala, they went across into South Sudan.
Yes.
Some of them settled there. They were doing cultivation there. But now a group of soldiers came and started attacking the villages, starting mistreating the women, removing clothes from their bodies. And so this angered the other guys. And they said, well, if this is the way they are treating our people, who have gone away without resistance, we have not staged war in our territory, we have gone away. But if that is how they are treating our people, let's go back and die. That's how the war started, way back in 1986, actually.
Yes.
By August 1996, they came back to fight. And that is what has gone on, took different shapes, started with that. Of course, you had the first group which negotiated the truce, and then you had Alice Lakwena, then the Joseph Kony. So the ground was fertile for propaganda politics to make the population believe that they're all under threat if something did not change. And the change that they required was that President must leave by whatever means. So that was the politics that was carried on. And then because of what happened, it became part of the history. So you say, this happened to you, this happened to you, this happened to you. Let me tell you.
It became a talking point for the opposition.
It became a talking point and a mobilization ground for anybody coming to talk to our people about it. This guy does not like you. That's why he's treating you this way. We have to get rid of him. 1996, Semugerere came. Same narrative. We are your liberators. You guys are in trouble with this man.
Right.
And so we bought in. And everybody bought in. And Semugerere was deep here. I remember I talked to my father and he said, what? It's not, now you really want, he was a strong UPC man.
Yes.
He said, now really you want me to vote for a DP? You want me to vote for a DP? Really? Is that what you're asking me to do? And you know the divide between UPC and DP then.
Yes.
My father was a strong UPC man. He's still alive. So then I said, well, it's the right thing to do at the moment. Okay? So we moved there, of course, they voted. And later on he asked me, no, he told me rather, he said, Jacob, these people rejected their own son when we voted for him here.
Yes.
And he laughed. Fast forward, the next elections.
Meaning in 1996, the North voted for Paul Semugerere.
Absolutely, yes.
But you have some people who say the vote was rigged in northern Uganda. You have the Vice Chancellor for Gulu University who says that during that 1996 elections, the sub-county chairpersons for the NRM were actually polling agents for Paul Semugerere on voting day.
No.
They switched.
There was no NRM then. I think let's have the history correct. There was no NRM then. There was President Museveni standing for the movement, and the rest of the people. Semugerere came under auspices of multi-parties. That is how they had the Cecilia Walls mobilizing for him. And that's how we all bought in to start mobilizing for Semugerere.
So the vote was not rigged?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But there was this huge, everybody almost voted, by the way, to remove President Museveni. Now, came 2001. 2001. I remember I was a campaign manager for Agri-Awori. We put up a show, quite a big show.
Yes.
And of course, Agri-Awori didn't sell very much. He had the potential, the ground was ripe, but I think we did not have a candidate that could match the capacity that President Museveni had developed. So somehow along the lines, and then we didn't have the resources, somehow they interfered our island financing, and so we didn't quite make it. I made quite a few speeches about the candidature of Agri-Awori. I remember when we received him from the airport, it was a big thing. Yeah. I came to this building, I gave a great speech.
Indeed.
And about Agri-Awori, introducing him, and it was full, the first time. We really put a lot of drama in the thing to mobilize. First time to use sign language in the communicating. What he had this arena. It was a big thing.
Indeed.
And I was told that that kind of caused some difficulty for some people. So they started looking at us very keenly. And a lot of our people, strong people, were pulled away. The late Cyprian Bamose was bishop, was on the team, Ambassador Botoa. I will not say the name of the lady from Buganda.
But somehow you couldn't trounce President
We,
Museveni
no,
still.
of course, we could not get anywhere near. And we didn't go far with that. That is the year I also eventually ended up in Parliament in 2001 to become a member of Parliament for the 7th Parliament. Now, that election, you remember, Besigye came for the first time with, I think, the reform agenda or something like that. And the narrative there was that. I remember one day, I went to Gulu to mobilize for Awori. And around the market there, they had put a big poster, Besigye, Lala, Lala meaning savior. I almost cried. Saving you from what? But the narrative was saving you from President Museveni. It was wrong, but was so believable at that time. But by that time, I was not supporting Besigye.
Because even the people were angry
I did
themselves.
not support Besigye. I was campaigning for Agrawari. And the people who were doing this were so, so aggressive. I went to do a meeting around the market, around the market side there, where there was this Lala sign thing. And they disrupted my meeting. Being the peace lover I am, I called it off. And I could pull some crowd, by the way. So I decided to walk to Kahunda ground, which is about 800 meters from where I was supposed to walk. And everybody followed me there. We had a good meeting there. And I said, instead of standing there to fight, why don't I just find another man? If they follow me there, I'll just call off and go home. The message would have been sent.
Indeed.
That he was stopped from speaking. Now, 2001, 2006.
As the government engaged the rebels.
Remember 2005, I was the chair of the legal committee then. We had moved to multi-party politics.
Indeed.
And guess what? The chief campaigner to move from movement system to multi-partyism was President Museveni. And the rest of the people say, now this could be a trick. And he went countrywide to campaign in the referendum to change to multi-partyism. And then that's when the NRM came. I lost that election, but that election was dramatic. I think that is when Besigye was at his peak in the region. In my own county, Omoro, it was very big then. I knew I'd lost 2 days before elections. I knew I'd lost. So at that time, there was a lot of insecurity. So I was staying in town and I drive every morning to go and do the campaigns. So I knew I'd lost. All the forces were against me. All the members of parliament who I was with in parliament came over there to demobilize my people. And I became a lone voice. Very difficult. And of course, that time I was UPC. I stood as UPC. These guys came and they were powerful and they had this money that I'd never seen. So Besigye was very strong then. So the night before the elections, there's something in the church they call Riemogemo, chasing away the demons. And you use that early morning at the crack of dawn, you beat drums, you beat debes, anything that is on you, you beat to, and the cry is chase the demon away from the land. And that's what happened. They beat that mobilization, you could not reverse. You could not reverse it. Boom, 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 boom. At dawn, they came overwhelmed and I say, we're finished. And there was a mob. Anybody who was not supporting FDC that time lost, with the exception of Honorable Hilary Onek.
Indeed.
In that belt. We all lost. We all lost. And and the thing was, take the key 3 times, you will have chased President Museveni. Take the key 3 times, you will have chased President Museveni. So there is a lady who voted against Zachary Olum's, Honorable Zachary Olum's sister, voted against Zachary Olum. When
divisive politics.
When they finished the voting, she came with a huge laughter. We are finished, we are finished. We have already elected you. Say, did you vote for me? Say, yes. He said, okay, what happened? Say, I just looked for the key and ticked because I knew. Oh, my sister, you have voted against me. Then they laughed about it. But of course, we had not lost, and that happened. Now came 2011. Things started shifting from that time. And there was more listening now. Of course, 2006, I changed parties. I joined the NRM and started working for it very, very hard. And you see, for me, when I move, I move. I don't leave anything behind.
Yeah.
I just move completely. So we moved and started a campaign for President Museveni and the NRM. 2011, I came back to Parliament, and the rest is what you already know.
Indeed.
Now, what caused these changes? The narratives became very old, and no truth could be attached to it. Then there was the war. That was another ground. This is President Museveni with his proxy people fighting the community of the Acholi. And this was very loud. Internationally, our people in the diaspora made this very clear. And the people on the ground felt the same because they had no other voice.
Indeed.
People were not strong enough to counter this argument. So 2006 came and passed. 2011
You started enjoying some support as the NRM within Northern Uganda. So the viewer who is watching right now is wondering what actually changed from the friendship with FDC and now the friendship with the NRM.
Now, the biggest thing that got out of the equation was the war. 2004, I remember.
The guns were silent now.
The guns went silent.
Development was starting to be seen by members of the public within Northern Uganda. Go ahead.
And so we moved from that. From 2004, we started the negotiations. Of course, Betty Bigombe I tried earlier, didn't work. 2004, I was in South Africa. I got a phone call that I was required to go to meet the rebels. I was coming from New Zealand. So we went, first time, to meet the rebels. Brigadier Kolo, Brigadier Dada and Banya, and all the others. We were supposed actually to meet Joseph Kony. We didn't meet him. That was the discussion that had started based on the International Criminal Court. That law had been enacted. The pressure was on the LRA that a world court would be prosecuting them, and they didn't understand it. I remember when we went for the first meeting, I was put to task to explain what the ICC was all about. That was around 24th December 2004. And I explained to them. But the situation was tense, because even when when we left Gulu driving to Kitgum, you could see that everybody had hopes in that process. People stood along the roads to just clap and cheer us on. Wish you the best. We're praying for you and things like. We became like little heroes in this kind of situation.
People were getting tired of resistance politics.
People were tired, and people had suffered being in camps and all these things. They had lost everything, so they were really exhausted as a result of the war. So we came to Kitgum, went to the bushes. Dr. Ruakana Rugunda led the government team. I was part of the people who were selected to go. So we went, and I have not been in a situation as tense as that one. They agreed on a minimum force, 12 people, 12 soldiers from either side. So we went to a place called Timpaloda, deep inside Palabek there, in the mountains. When we went, we drove, then they said, stop here. Then they stopped, said, okay, let's go. We thought there was some organized way. It's just straight in the bush.
You don't say.
In the bush, 7 kilometers into the bushes. By some coincidence, for me, I had the right shoes. Some people, some ladies had open shoes. They suffered. Oh, yes, they suffered. But it was so tense. I can relieve it. It was so tense that even a genieful flying, you take cover.
Indeed.
That's how tense it was. We went, and there were 2 mountains. We went in between the mountains. There were 12 LRA soldiers with machine guns. I'm not talking about AK-47.
Submachine guns.
That's small. This one with the big bullets, they call them the PK. All 12 had PK.
Mounted on a truck.
No, in their hands. Guess what? Pointed at us. and the other side was the government. And we're in the
middle.
Things that happen to people you cannot believe. Then, of course, we started talking. They asked me about the ICC. I tried to explain. But the shocking thing, we had the catechist of the LRA. They asked him to pray. My God. After that meeting, because the guy prayed, after that meeting, I can tell you I didn't know how to pray. Because if a man who could do this to innocent people can pray this hard, can pray this well, I could not let alone find the words to pray to God. Because this guy is citations from the Old Testament, and he did a good job praying. I stopped following. I just started admiring this guy because the way he was praying. So we were there with this tension. And then I was tasked to do a ceasefire agreement. I came back, I stayed there actually, and I spent a whole night trying to draft something very quickly. And I did draft. Then after they asked me to translate. So at about 3 a.m., my phone rang, and it was the commanders of the LRA. They wanted to know what I had drafted. I was on phone for 2 hours.
Talking to them?
Talking to them. I read the English one. I had to translate it into an Acholi version. I also read it to them. Then they told, remove this. I still have the text, by the way. Remove this.
You still have the text from the rebels?
The text I drafted. I still have it today. Remove this, remove this. The next day, we're supposed to go to Kitgum and then go back to the bush for this ceasefire agreement to be signed. So, I didn't sleep. In the morning, I was too exhausted to even eat anything. So we left to go to Kitgum and then eventually start waiting for these guys. They never showed. We waited and waited. Nobody showed. Dr. Roka Narugunda was there. The legal team from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Then he was Minister of Internal Affairs. Nobody showed. When we were coming back, we had not eaten a whole day. Professor Ganyala Tigadgal carried the 5-liter thing of wine. You know that became our food?
5 liters of wine?
5 liters of wine. So we, from Kitgum, that was our breakfast, that was our lunch, that was our dinner.
I see.
By the time we were coming to River Swar, we were all intoxicated.
I see.
But everybody was on the road. You should have seen their faces. Crestfallen, sadness. You know, there was like a thick cloud that overwhelmed the people there. So we came. But that phase then passed, 2004, and then, and then of course, what started in 2006, the negotiations that started, and I was part of it. We went to Rikwangba to try and do negotiations with the LRA. I had a one-on-one with Joseph Coyne, and so on and so forth. But that's, so that phase passed.
The insecurity, the land issues all passed.
So when during the peace talks, we signed a ceasefire agreement. They inked it. Troops were relocated from Sudan across to the other side by the agreement. And so there was ease of this tense situation in the Choli, okay, let's say the affected areas in northern Uganda. Now when that went, and people started returning to their places, and they attributed this to President Museveni, that had he not done this, it would not have been possible. And then also, he decided to camp there himself. All these gestures made people say, but is he really the kind of guy who dislikes us?
And that's what I've been asking of him in these other areas in Uganda, especially in this year, that are playing resistance politics. To go there himself, it will change everything. But go ahead.
He went, he would camp there for months. Even cabinet would meet in Gulu. You know,
he didn't give up. He was
patient. He did not give up. He was unyielding to anything that happened. And his own brother was there, General Saleh was then the commander there. He would be there. Said, these people have risked everything to be here. So, you know, information started moving. Said, but really, if he meant that bad, would he be doing these kind of things? So that that went. So the elections of 2011 shifted a lot. You could see that northern Uganda started warming up to President Museveni. And now it became a mobilization issue. What messages were reaching people? The domination in the airwaves was still you know what they have done to you, you know what they have done to you, now they are coming for the land, or something like that. So it was still a strong narrative that they passed to our people. So, but by 2016, things had changed quite drastically. And I came into leadership of the region in last year, 2020. And we agreed that we would use the structures of the party.
After clinching the SEC position for Northern Uganda?
After becoming a member of the Central Executive Committee.
I remember telling them, I remember hearing you telling them that they haven't reached or contacted the local NRM person on the ground.
Precisely. I say we have to reactivate, we have to empower, we have to engage the party structures in the villages. Make them active, let them start running, let them carry this message of hope about what NRM intends to do in the next. So the mobilization became very strong and everybody became active. So a lot of it is now attributable to the activation of the party structures and the changes that happened, the activities. Because the publicity secretaries went on radio and did a lot of work.
Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah, we are having this very, very pertinent conversation on the northern vote, how the people in northern Uganda voted. We still do have the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah, with whom we are expounding on how the people in northern Uganda voted. Remember, this comes in the wake of the opposition saying that the just concluded January 14th elections were actually rigged by the NRM. So what Deputy Speaker Jacob Oulanyah is doing right here on the show is to try to help us or enlighten us on how the people in northern Uganda voted. Mr. Oulanyah, the opposition contends that this election was rigged, especially in northern Uganda. National Unity Platform contends that they had a lot of support within northern Uganda, but we saw how these individuals voted from that region. Explain to us why they think it was rigged, and in your perspective, help us understand how the people in the north voted.
No, I think the vote, I was there. And I did not witness any foul play in the elections. If you notice, when the discussion started, Bobby Wine, let me use Bobby Wine was very popular with the young people.
Yes.
And in the NRM, there was a gap in connecting with the young people.
Just like you mentioned last year.
Yes, yes. And we made a shift. I think when President Museveni came to Arua for his campaigns, I had a meeting with him. I said, sir, after the big meeting of the structures of the party, you need to start engaging with the youth. We have done meetings in Lira already and in Apache. I said, we need a shift. We need to start embracing the youth and give them a separate program, separate hearing, and engage with them directly, hear their issues, because that is a fertile ground. And my argument was that voters' roll had increased by 4.5 million people. And you could imagine that those were only young people who crossed into the voting age. I said we need to devise a deliberate mechanism to tap into that. We have the youth structure up to the villages. We are not using them. So President Museveni now agreed to a meeting of the young people alone. And it was very good. I spoke to them first before he spoke. And you could see that everything started changing. He started going back where he had already covered to go and now meet only the youth. And that now happened the rest of his tour.
After you softening the ground?
Yes, 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 after he went around the country. The thing that changed is we mobilized heavily. We were engaged. I had no capacity to go to all the villages, all the towns, and so on. So all my meetings were centralized. I called up to about 200 people, influential leaders, publicity secretaries of the party, and so on and so forth, put them together, and really spoke to them. And these messages were recorded, and when the publicity secretary would go on radios, they would play them and move. So this started creating some change slowly. It was not like it was a one-man show. No, I would be lying. A lot of people did a lot of work to have this change. So in my view, really, if there has been an election that has not had any violence in our region, it's these last elections.
Yeah, because according to the Afrobarometer report, they actually say it's the urban areas in the eastern region that were also prone to violence, and not the northern region. Yes.
No.
People are embracing peace in this side.
There was no violence. And the thing that started, the greatest contender against President Museveni was Bobby Wine. And I like always, and I've said this before, Bobby Wine was not a person in this election. Bobby Wine was an idea. The idea that President Museveni is too old, the idea that President Museveni had overstayed in power, that was the idea that was being discussed. The person who was carrying this, the symbol that was carrying this, was the person of Bobby Wine. A lot of elites bought into this thing, said, but maybe there can be an area of change in this area. Let's embrace the young man so that there is change in this country. Many of them were not talking about Bobby Wine, the person, but many of them were talking about Bobby Wine, the idea of change arising from a person who is now old and had overstayed in power. A lot of that discussion caught fire among so many people. What changed was the content and the way the message was being carried. You come to northern region and you ignore the entire fabric of that society. You come into the town and you talk to young people for about an hour and you go. That society has elders, has structures of its management. You don't even come to talk to them. Then the discussion begins. Does this man think we exist? Does this man think we are in charge? We have held these societies together for all this time?
But in Buganda,
no, I'm telling you what happened in our place.
All right.
Is he really for us? If he was for us, he would have sat down with some elders and told them what the mission. What do we have in this for us? So that discussion started.
So it was a fight against.
And we dramatized it. Is it really for the community? Is it? And then we also dramatize the narrative. He says, have you noticed that all this mobilization pitching on our history always comes from somewhere else? We don't generate it here. Somebody comes to us, cries louder than we do about our own situation. Is that something we should reflect on? Don't we have the capacity to evolve our own systems and understand that understand the challenges and deal with it? Is somebody talking to us? If that person who is not talking to us, we are better off.
There's another problem, Honorable Jacob Oulanyah.
Yes.
Afrobarometer says that people in Uganda, the citizens, are losing interest in elections in this country.
They voted. Well, they voted.
9 million did not show up to the polls.
Well, they voted. They voted. But the issue of...
do you think it's such issues of rigging, allegations of rigging, the violence that we saw in the just concluded election?
It's a worldwide problem now. Voter turnout is becoming a problem. The US, they had to mobilize hard for people to turn up and vote. So
many voted via mail.
Yeah, many voted via mail. If they didn't have the option of voting via mail, they would not have showed up to vote. So I'm saying the issue of voter fatigue and apathy is growing worldwide. Every year, the participation in the elections become less and less and less. That is a worldwide problem. So it's not cannot only be attributable to Uganda. So why I'm saying this is, eventually, when the method of operation started showing with the violence and with all these other things, then people started saying, wait a minute. They now started saying, by the way, in spite of all these things that have happened, in whose hands can we leave this country? Most of these people who had bought in had lived what had happened in the past in this country. They know what happened. So there is a possibility that we could go back to that thing? And nobody wants to go back that way. The first 24 years of our independence is something we don't want to relive, in spite of the problems that has happened during President Museveni's leadership. We cannot go back to the last 24 years, the first 24 years of our independence.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, that is Jacob Oulanyah, we have some 2 minutes left to end this conversation, and I think it wouldn't be right for the viewer if we leave without you expounding on the speakership race that is shaping up. We have campaigns that are coming in April. How is that coming along within Parliament? You can just talk about the basics.
No. I think I am...
the date and when we are supposed to be having these elections, the basics, not the politics.
No. For me, I am NRM, and I'm a member of the Central Executive Committee of the party, and I believe in the processes that are in the party. I remember in 2016, when we had the meeting with CEC, there was still some contestations. CEC advised both of us to maintain status quo, to let the sitting speaker then
be there for more 5 years and then give way for you
to do 10 years like our predecessor has done. So we maintain status quo for that purpose. So for me, I'm not engaging in anything for now. I'm waiting for the process of the party to evolve.
Because she promised by 2021 she'll be handing over the mantle to you, but now she's saying she won't be handing over. What would be next if CEC says she stays as speaker for you?
Well, I think this is the opportunity that CEC has to show that it means what it says. It's really not up to me. Yeah, I'm a member of the Central Executive Committee. So I'm sure, because you see, in order to introduce certainty and predictability in systems of governance, you are going to have to live by precedents set. If no precedent is set and precedents that are set are altered all the time for convenience, then there's a lot of uncertainty. And then you have a lot of anxiety among the people who believe in the system. So for me, I believe that this is the opportunity that the party has to confirm that the precedents, the organs work, and its predictability. Once they have said something, they mean it. So it will collapse the tensions. You know that if Oulanyah becomes this, he can only do 10 years. And after that, he should move. And another somebody else should come. So that would create certainty and stabilize the system. But of course, that is for the future, but I don't want to engage in that discussion right now. Yes.
That is Jacob Oulanyah, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, talking to us about the Northern Vote, the development projects within Northern Uganda, and also the contestation for the speakership race. We have campaigns coming over in April, and we have elections in May. Well, that's it for this edition of Morning at NTV. It's been very, very interesting. Yes, my name is Rami Busik. Of course, COVID-19 is still here. 40,607 cases of COVID-19, 121,128,000 plus cases of COVID-19 on the international scene. Please wear a face mask and also social distance.
Romeo, I need to pass a condolence message.
Yes, a condolence message.
Yes, on the passing of President Magufuli. I think it comes at a time when we need deep reflections. He has passed on, but at that level of the president, I think what is comforting is that the systems that are in place are able to handle a transition when the president dies. And I take my hat off for the people of Tanzania, because if you remember the situation that happened in Malawi, where they wanted to change the rules to accommodate another person altogether who was not part of what the constitution supported, and took phone calls from so many people for them to go back to the constitution. I think that was not good. But Tanzania sets a good example that when somebody moves, the rules which are set before the game must govern.
Honorable Jacob Oulanyah, the Deputy Speaker for the 10th Parliament, right here in Morning at NTV, expounding on so many pertinent issues that are plaguing this country. My name is Rami Busik. Of course, let's do this again tomorrow. To all the Kings, Queens who are celebrating their birthdays on this particular day, please enjoy your birthday, but please wear a face mask when you go out to a hot concentration.